Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hello, thank you so much for joining in. Uh, I will begin with an introduction of you and then we'll go on to a conversation here. So, to everyone who is present here, and for a lot of you who know Amit Mehra already, and the others who probably are not familiar with his work, I have today here a photographer with 3 decades of experience behind him. He's a photographer who began with photojournalism and then traversed into spaces of advertising and architecture photography, which he now does. But the work that really distinguishes him is his documentary photography work. He has 3 books to his credit. The books are India, A Timeless Celebration, Kashmir, and Roznama. I will be trying to show you the covers of the 3 books, but pardon me in case I'm facing certain technical glitches. In case I am able to do that, I'll go on to show the covers of the books to you. But over the years, Mr. Mehra has not only been involved in photography but has gone beyond into curatorial endeavors where he's curated the Second India Photo Festival and also a solo photo exhibition of photographer Zishan Akbar Latif called 95 Money Villa. It's also very, very special for me to host you today, sir, because you've been one of the very close uh, people who've guided me through my work and who've guided me in my photography. And I really appreciate you taking out time for this. Welcome here. And I would like to begin with asking you a question about how, as a photographer, yes.
Can I say hi to everyone?
Sure, please go ahead.
There are a lot of highs are coming. So just wanted
Sure.
to say hi, and it's good to hear that Amit sir. Otherwise, you have been calling Mr. Mehra, Mr. Mehra. So that sounds like, oh, I never heard of Mr. Mehra. So anyway, thank you so much for hosting me today. I hope these talks are gonna be as successful as the other platform what you were hosting on Zoom, talks by women photographers. So now good to have the other side of the humanity. I would say the male photographer is also here. So I'm sure this is gonna be a mix of all. So which is wonderful. So anyway, thank you everyone for joining here, and hi to everyone. You can proceed, Soumya, now. Please tell me.
Uh, so I think I'll begin with the way you have navigated the various genres of photography. Like I said, you began with photojournalism and then you gradually over your career you moved on to advertising and then architecture and hotel photography now. So how did you navigate these spaces and what led you to switch the various spaces that you had been working in?
You started with a question which is like supposedly one of the last questions. So I can imagine now where you are going now. So anyway, as far as a lot of disturbance is coming. Just a sec. I don't know, some
We
lot of
can hear you
disturbance at my.
clearly.
Okay, now I can hear a lot
Yeah.
of disturbance at my end.
Do you want to take off one earphone maybe and try it? Or do you want to plug in your earphone again?
Just a sec, huh? Just give me a sec.
Hmm.
Anyway, it's not going anywhere. Let it be.
Okay.
So, as far as navigating through different genre of photography is concerned, you know, it's difficult to answer because this I face on day-to-day basis. In my career, I started as a news photographer, as you rightly said, and then moved into a bit of bit of travel photography, and then moved into documentary space of photography, and then gradually seamlessly went into advertising, and then portraiture a lot, corporate portraiture. Started Business Today magazine with Namak Bhojani in the 90s. And then moved into hardcore advertising, and then finally ended up as an architecture photographer. But having said that, at times also I also feel surprised. But my only approach in life is, and I would say, just be open to life. Just be open to life of whatever you do. It's not about photography. If I answer this correctly, if I'll have to go back, a lot of things depends on your upbringing, how open your environment was, uh, how cool your parents were. They were so open that allowed you to, they allowed you to experience everything in life. And when I say everything, means everything. I mean, to that extent, if I was not willing to appear in my BCom first year exam, my mother said, okay, it's okay, whatever you feel like doing, do. So, I had that kind of freedom in life, uh, which is very rare. And I could talk to my parents, at that level. And then comes to my photography schooling, I would say. I never had a formal training as such, but I was lucky one to assisted Paul Saab, S. Paul, the legendary S. Paul, uh, who himself was, into. There was no limit for him as far as photography was concerned. He was a press photographer. He was a news photographer with Indian Express for almost 3 decades. He was a photo editor there. But besides news photography, his interest in photography were, I mean, what was not there which was not exciting for him as far as photography was concerned. Everything. So, coming from that background, family background, and then working with such a legend who was open to all the ideas, who was open to all the genre of photography, it really helped shaping up my mind. Then the third thing I always say, be open to life. Whatever life is offering you, just be open. And I'm not philosophizing it. I'm just saying very practically, just be open. So there are times when you have to do many things for survival, which I also did. And the fourth and the foremost reason for me, and I can, let me confess, I'm a very restless soul.
Sorry
There is
about that
some,
background sound.
there is some sound.
And that was from my end. Sorry about
Sorry,
that.
yeah. So,
You're saying you're a very restless soul.
yeah, so I'm a very, very restless soul. So, I cannot stick to one area of photography, or maybe, you know, I would say it's not one genre of photography, one area of photography. I have to move on. At times I'm doing 3 or 4 projects simultaneously, and I'm not saying project for the heck of it. I'm very, very choosy about selecting my projects. I work on my projects quite intensely, very intensely. Not that the other photographers don't do; they also do, of course. But normally people stick to one project for many years. I stick to 3, 4 projects, and when I get tired of one project, I moved into another project, and when I get saturated with the second one, I moved into third one, and then I come back to my commercial sphere of photography. So that's what keeps me moving. If I get stuck with one project or with one idea of photography, then I think monotony will kill me. So just to make myself alive, I have to have 3, 4 on my platter, along with my commercial work. And as far as commercial work is concerned, my first love is photography, and I do photography for myself. I am the first consumer of my art, if may I say. Everything comes later, whether it's going to be a project, whether it's going to turn out to be a book or an exhibition. I don't decide anything. The first thing is I work as the first consumer of my art. So I take it very personally that this is going to be a situation where I'm going to enjoy my work, and irrespective of anything and everything else is not relevant at that point of time. Later on, of course, things move on and we all plan and then calculate. I don't plan that much. But yeah. So as far as my commercial photography is concerned, I was saying it's very important for me to do photography and now how to sustain. And it's not only today, even 20 years back also, it was very difficult to do your personal body of work. I have never done, after 99, I have never shot any documentary project for anybody else except for myself. I never went into the industry or in the market to get a project for myself. Now, I want to do this project, A project, B project, C project, but how will I sustain? And I'm equally good with commercial work. I am not one of those guys who write or who survive on grants. As I said, I'm a restless person. I cannot wait. If I decided to work on a project today, so I'm not going to wait for another 2 years or 3 years to able to achieve that grant. And you never know whether you get the grant or don't get the grant. To sustain myself, to sustain my photography, which is my first love, I started working commercially. And I'm equally
But
good
then
with that.
if I-
Yeah. Sorry.
If I may interject here, if you're saying that, which is why, like, you sort of bootstrap the work, the money that you make commercially into your documentary projects. But even in terms of your commercial projects, you've been rather risky. It's not like you've particularly stuck to one genre, because then, we all know it's easier to navigate the space with the same contacts, with the same people. So you basically traversing into different genres and maybe starting from maybe a lower level than you were at another genre, because you still have to build yourself up in that space.
यार पता है क्या है, दिस इज व्हाट आई विल टेल यू गाइस आल्सो. मेरे को शुरू से थोड़ा सा उल्टा चलने की आदत है, तो मैंने हमेशा से रिस्क लिए हैं. जब फोटोग्राफी भी मैंने शुरू करी थी तो मेरे पास कैमरा भी नहीं था, और जब मैं पॉल साहब के पास गया था तो फर्स्ट टाइम व्हेन आई वेंट टू पॉल साहब, he asked me, what do you do? I said, nothing sir, I was doing my chartered accountancy and I left it. He said, okay, what you intend to do? So I said, sir, कैमरा में फिल्म लोड नहीं करनी आती. So with that brutal honesty, I went. जब उनसे फोटोग्राफी सीखी तब पैसे नहीं होते थे, तो फोटोग्राफी कैसे करनी है, तो दोस्तों से उधार लेते थे, या शाम को टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया in that press.
So if I could just add here, we're just getting comments of people requesting you to speak in English if you can, because I believe there are people from other parts of the world as well.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, I didn't realize. So when I started photography, didn't have the money to sustain again, and didn't have the job either. So I used to go to Times of India, that Bahadur Shah Zafar Lane, the press lane where all Times of India, National Herald, Indian Express, all the newspaper. So I used to go like a rackpicker in the evening, and to get the cut rolls from all the photo sections of every newspaper. So somebody used to oblige me for 4 cut rolls, somebody used to give me 5 cut rolls. So I used to have 15 frames from one office, 13 frames tri-X of. So I survived like that. So I used to literally go like a rackpicker from one photo department to another photo department of 3-4 newspapers. And then I used to travel without ticket in train. So I used to go to, let's say, today I will go to, I used to go to the railway station. I decided to go, okay, the first train which will come, I will just board into that. Okay, I landed up in Aligarh. So I started shooting from the train to Aligarh. And then from Aligarh, I went to somewhere Lucknow. The first train I used to get, I went. I mean, I did so much of backpacking and hiking that I went from here, just doing photography from Delhi to Mumbai on a truck ride with drivers.
Wow.
So that's another, now you can call it a project. Though in those days, the project word was not there. So we were just very simple photographer. We used to do single images. So I always tend to take risk, and these things, these experiences in life made me very fearless. So one thing has to be there. Whether whatever you do, just be open to life and be fearless. If you start calculating too much, oh, how will I survive? I should have a plan. Of course, you should have. I'm not denying that. But don't rely too much on your all these things. Just rely on your gut feel also. Because at the end of the day, what photography is all about us and the relationship between us and our subject, whatever our subject is. But first of all, the message comes from this mind: what to shoot, what not to shoot, what to do, how to deal with the subject. So at the end of the day, what we are, that's what we will reflect in our work. Exactly. So that's how. So coming back to your question about different genre of photography, that's how I navigated from one sphere to another sphere, and then to sustain all that, I've been doing commercial photography and been touchwood a very successful commercial photographer so far. I don't know how it's gonna be after COVID. So let's see, finger crossed.
Okay. Uh, I would also like to talk a bit about the various documentary projects that you worked on. So your three different books that I mentioned, and I'm sorry due to technical issues, I'm not able to share the covers of the projects, but your first book was India, A Timeless Celebration, which dwelled in spirituality in India. Then you moved on to a book like Kashmir, where you took a very humanist stand on an issue which is so political. And your third book was Roznama, which was a personal diary, and it was India's first photo book shot on iPhone. Where were these projects coming from? Was it a process where you were actively looking out to work on documentary projects and you were searching for issues to work on, or was it coming from some personal point? Because in a lot of ways, all these topics are very diverse,
See, as far as the projects are concerned, like I said in my last answer, I don't plan initially. That doesn't mean that I don't plan at all. I plan. But first I test the groundwater. As far as my India project was concerned, it was not only about the spirituality in India, that is a very cliched thing. I'll tell you the idea behind doing this. In short, I'll just tell you idea behind Timeless India. I was assigned a huge project by the ex-president of Egypt, Hosni Mubarak, to shoot the temples in Egypt. It was an architecture project, and when I was doing that project, whatever project I do, whatever work I've been assigned, I do a lot of research on that. So I've been reading a lot on Egypt. It's a long story, but what I realized, we were the contemporary civilization, Indus Valley civilization, Nile civilization. They were contemporary civilization. Both 5,000 years back, both existed. But what happened with the Nile civilization? First, it was ruled by the Egyptian, the pharaohs. Then the Greeks came over. They tried to evade, and they evaded. They tried to erase everything, whatever the pharaohs have done, and put their stamp on that. Then the Romans came after 2,000 years, and they did exactly the same what the Greeks did. They ruled for almost 1,300 years, and then the Arabs came. And when the Arabs came, they did exactly the same thing. They tried to destroy whatever the previous civilization did. And what remained only is the structures. The structures where, if I say the temples, the architecture, all those beautiful spots now, the touristic spots of Egypt. Whereas, when I was reading this and when I was working there in Egypt, the thought came to my mind that we are the contemporary civilization and our civilization is still going on. That was the time of Mahabharata in India, when the pharaohs were there. And if we go back 5,000 years, that was actually the time. But what is there in this country? The idea behind that book was, what is there in this country which is going on seamlessly till date? It was not like, just collect 72 pictures of colorful India, or making a celebration of religion. No, the idea was what is there in us. And I had a deep discussion with Sir Martali, who wrote the foreword, and I chose him particularly why he opted India as his homeland. Why? What is there in India? What attracts people in India? And the one-liner answer from I had a lot of discussion with many scholars, Maulana Wahiduddin, Sir Mark Tali, many other people, Swami Chinmayanand. The idea was, which is right now, I would say, it's under great threat. The idea was acceptance. We accept it. The Hinduism in India has accepted everything. We were so big that we accepted. I mean, can you imagine that one religion has three offshoots: Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism, and it allowed it to flourish. It allowed them to flourish. So the acceptance of India was such a great thing, and it is such a great thing till date, that we allowed everything. We are so good in accepting and taking people along with us. So the idea was behind Timeless India was how India is still able to take 6 or 7 religions in its fold and moved on. So that was a very well thought idea, and then I started gradually working on that project. Kashmir was another story. Kashmir was like it's a whole chapter. What should I say about Kashmir? This can be another talk about Kashmir. Uh, I also landed up in Kashmir without having any clue on Kashmir, and Kashmir is a wonderful story. How a photographer being swayed away by uh, a land or subject, or by landscape, or by conflict land, and how he starts playing different roles, and then he lands up nowhere. And when I say again, I'll say, be open to life. If you are open to life, then you will realize you are a failure. I was a failure in the first half of the Kashmir project. I turned out to be miserable in the first half, and then how I turned the situation around. So that was another subject or project, I would say, and both the projects are absolutely different. Here I am talking about India which is full of acceptance, and here there's the Kashmir where so much of suppression is going on. So now one photographer is doing two projects, one after the other, back to back, where he's talking about the idea of acceptance, idea of India, and then he's talking about, oh, hello, there is another land within India which has been suppressed for the last 30 years. And then move on to Roznama. Roznama is a very personal, it's a beautiful book. It's a very personal project. It's a relationship between father and daughter. So that's another project where I was blessed in 2012 with a daughter. And then I realized, being in a nuclear family, you have to look after the daughter when your wife is working out. So you have to look after the daughter. And the most frustrating part of that was I was not able to photograph her, because a little one is in your arms and you cannot do things with your DSLR at that point of time. Maybe after a year or 2 years one could have shot, but when you are all alone at home and you are looking after the child, but you can't shoot. So that's how I actually that was the time when I bought a camera phone. Before that, I didn't even have a camera phone. I had a very basic phone, mobile phone. So that's how the journey started and the relationship developed between father and daughter. So I dedicate that book to my daughter Nazo, and it turned out to be a wonderful journey between father and daughter. Wherever we went together, except 2 or 3 pictures in the book, uh, it's all about where father and daughter travel together and they shot. In fact, I intend to work on a sequel. In fact, I've been working on a sequel of that also, because it's an ongoing process. That's it. So all these 3 books, I didn't choose a particular one. I'm not one of those photographer, who will choose something which is right in thing or out thing. I don't go by that. What is going on or what is going in right now? What is in the fashion? Let's work on these projects. No, I don't work until unless something touches here in my heart. No, I don't work on that. And all these projects have got a personal relationship. Until unless they have a personal bonding with me, I don't work. I won't touch a project.
This also kind of brings me what you've said about the different projects to my next question, which is, you know, there are certain photo projects or there are certain photographs that we see, and we can identify the photographer behind the photographs. You know, over a period of time, photographers tend to build a certain style that they kind of start getting identified with. But when one looks at the three books that you've made so far, one tends to believe that they're made by different photographers. They've been shot by different photographers because the style in those books is so different. Do you think it's really important for photographers to have that distinct style? And do you think that's one of the places where you kind of distinguish yourself in your photography?
I don't know about distinguish or not. That's like I can't take that credit. But as long as
I'm sorry about the dog in the background.
oh, it's okay.
Yeah, sorry about
It's
that.
okay. It's okay. You must be putting up some questions. Let it be. Dogs are cute. Anyway, so as far as the style is concerned, you know, it's a very conflicting statement to me. And whatever I'm saying here is it's all about me and my experience. You know, there can be style, there cannot be. I'm not. I won't be. I would say I won't pass a statement on this. You know, one can have a style or one should have a style. Of course, there are photographers. You know, who have got very distinctive style. You can just spot the picture. Okay, this was shot by Alex Webb. Oh, definite. You know, a portrait by Nadav Kandra. Definitely. You know, you can spot. Many photographers have endless. But there are at the same time there are endless photographers who don't have any style. Martin Parr. He has a very unique style, but he's still searching for a style. Looks like, you know. So, as far as I am concerned, you know, I deal with the situation, or I deal with the, when I say project, I'm just referring it. I deal from project to project. My idea of India project cannot be implemented in Kashmir, and my Kashmir project idea in Kashmir project cannot be implemented in Roznama, or Roznama cannot be implemented in the Sufi project or in some other project. And one must understand, and you know, that every project has a different narrative, every project has a different ground to deal with. Of course, the photographer remains same, but I would say that even the photographer does not remain same. What Amit Mehra has shot from 2002 to 2006 for India Timeless Project is not the Amit Mehra in 2020. Amit Mehra's mind is not the same. Amit Mehra's mind is not the same in 2011 to 2006 to 2011 when he was doing Kashmir. His mind was not the same when he was doing Roznama. So when Amit Mehra evolved, when Amit Mehra has changed as a photographer, how he can carry or how he can validate one style seamlessly from one project to the third project, it's impossible. Of course, the photographers carry on with their style, but I don't. And I don't believe in that. I personally don't believe in any style. If you ask me, it's always a learning process for me. It's always a subject to subject, project to project. I'll deal with a project. I'll deal with the ground realities. I'll deal, you know, I never thought what I will end up doing in Kashmir. I never thought of that. My style was complete. The whole book is so silent. These are the catharsis of Kashmir. There is so much of eerie silence in the book. And if you look at the India book, so much of celebration is there. Because I could be there, when I was shooting for India book in Jaipur, in one of the temples in Jaipur, there was वहाँ का माहौल ही कुछ और था, sorry, there was so much of celebration was going on. Now, how can a photographer put that kind of celebration, what he's not feeling in Kashmir? He's feeling something else in Kashmir. And he's feeling absolutely on the other side. There was so much of restlessness, so much of conflict, so much of anger was there, suppression was there, so much of eerie silence is there, division is there. So how one can implement the same idea into another project? The moment the thought process changes, my style changes. It's as simple as that. Similarly with Roznama,
that's also not something that most photographers do. Most photographers do not question their own style when they move from one project to other. In a lot of ways, I think, and being a photographer myself, we fall into probably the easier way of trying to fit those stories into the way we look at or the way we photograph things. Do you think that's a place where the way you approach all your projects kind of stands out?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting you. I'm sorry.
I'm saying that's also very interesting because for a lot of photographers, when they're approaching projects as per their own style in photography.
Okay.
They're not questioning that maybe the need of a certain project is a very different style of photography.
Yeah. Definitely. You'll have to drop your baggage from project to project. You'll have to, when I say baggage, that means your thought process, and that thought process which culminates into your style. So at the end of the day, you'll have to drop your style. In fact, I would rather say, or I would go to that extent, I would say, one should not have a style in photography. If you really want to grow, because the moment you become a style statement, then that means the moment people start, pointing out the picture, that means your journey as a photographer, I'm talking about myself, my journey as a photographer seems like over. Because then there is nothing to explore. If you really want to explore more and more from subject to subject, project to project, then one has to drop this idea of style. One has to deal with the project. One has to be very honest to the project. One has to get the best of the project in terms of honesty. Otherwise, if on one hand I am dealing with my style, and on the other hand I am dealing with the project, the realities of project, there is going to be a contradiction. There is definitely going to be a conflict between the style as well as the ground realities of the project. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a or B particular style. I moved into a project with clean mind, clean eyes. Just drop the baggage of the last project there and then. And that's what keeps me moving on,
Yeah. You're also talking about Roznama
and I'm sorry, and why only project? Why we are only talking about documentary? When I do my commercial work also, in commercial work also, from advertising to architecture, and now I do I have a niche in this architectural photography, and when I work on architectural projects also, and I have started, clubbing my architectural project, architectural work also into my portraiture. I have started clubbing together. So there also I enjoy a lot, and I'm not saying I do that only for money so that I can sustain my. I enjoyed the genre of photography so much, and that really helps me to I would say uplift my idea of photography, of my personal photography. My commercial work really uplifts the idea of my personal photography. That way. Sorry, carry on.
Also, talking about Roznama. Roznama was a very different project. It was very personal. So I'm just thinking, what was the conscious attempt at the visual language that you probably made, or for Roznama, or how is that visual language coming out?
You know, as far as Roznama is concerned, besides being the idea, which I just tell you in short, it's a relationship between father and daughter, between me and my daughter. I was very excited when I got this iPhone, and the book was shot on iPhone 4, I think. That iPhone 4 and then iPhone 5s that time, 2012 to 2015. So I was super excited, like a child, you know. I was equally excited, like my daughter, to have this phone. She has her own toys. I had my own toy, this iPhone. And this iPhone has got another thing, which is called, you can tone the pictures, you know, you can,
Filters.
yeah, you can use the filters. And so I said, okay, let's do it like this. Let's use the borderline, and let's go back to the early days where I wanted to make a statement that nothing has been cropped. Of course, in the final book, we haven't used that idea, but I was so excited.
Could you, for the sake of audience, could you talk about that, you know, idea of border and where was it coming from?
See, initially, when we used to make prints, not me, I mean, before me, my forefathers also, when they used to make prints, my forefathers, like my photographic forefather. So when they used to make prints, they used to border it on the larger itself. So sometimes they used to print the negative border also on that, just to mark a statement that the picture has been printed in its full form. Nothing has been cropped and nothing has been manipulated. So that's why the black border used to be there initially, not for any design purpose, but just to mark a statement that, you know, the picture has not been cropped. It's a full frame. So in Roznama also, I did the same thing. And one more thing I would like to say, you know, you were saying, you were asking about how the visual perspective changes. The moment you in Roznama, I changed my format, and I realized the moment you change your format, your vision also changes. At least my vision has changed. So in Roznama, I shot on 1:1, 6:6, square format I shot. It completely changed my vision, you know. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's what it made the difference as far as the visual perspective is concerned. What was the question? Sorry, I will swayed away.
So I was basically trying to understand what were the visual choices you made for Roznama.
Visual choices in what context? There can be
in
many
terms of
contexts.
your style. In terms of your style, like you're saying that it's a requirement of a certain project to shoot in a certain style.
Yeah, that is there. That I think that I have already answered. You know, that was because
True.
of DSLR. I could not shoot on DSLR. Then again, I'm saying, you know, I got stuck to one, deliberately got stuck to one format, which has really changed my vision. 1:1. I have never shot before that. Long time back, I have a Mamiya 6, and I used to work on portraiture, but that was like almost 10 years back, 15 years back. I didn't touch 1:1. But this time I realized while doing Roznama, it really changed my vision. So, you know, changing the format also plays a major role on your vision. That way.
Speaking of which, you know, you've done you've made an entire book out of your photos shot on an iPhone. But we're living in times when we're overwhelmed with imagery and a lot of it which is coming from social media. So in these times when we're so overwhelmed with images, how can a photographer develop his or her unique way of seeing?
Well, there can be many answers to it. The only answer which I normally talk about, or the way I look at this, you know, I might sound very funny, but Stop looking at photography on social media. There's so much of food has been served in, when so much of food has been served, we tend to lose appetite. Uh, it's a very old saying. But what happens is, stop looking at photography if you really want to do photography now. Initially, in our days, I'm talking about 30 years back, when uh, we hardly used to get any book, or even if the American photo, one American photo used to come or two American photo used to come. In Delhi, I was lucky one that I was working with Paul Saab, and Paul Saab used to get all those magazines from Cannot Place. But people used to wait, after 2 months, after 2 months of its publication, the one magazine or BJP journal was coming. So that time it was an excitement. It was coming gradually. It was coming. It was not a bombardment of images. You understand what I'm trying to say? It was not a bombardment of 1 million images. There were few hundred images were coming in 4 months, 5 months, which used to excite you. Excite us. Which tempting point was there. We used to wait for those. Now you just open your mobile screen, and how much time we spend on a good picture? 2 seconds, 3 seconds. We don't even observe that. First of all, the size, and photography has taken a complete circle. The size has almost become like a 2D size from where the photography started. Those initially our grandfather used to have those 2B negatives or 2B prints. Now the pictures,
Contact prints,
yeah. No, I'm not talking about contact prints. The print size used to be 2B. In those days, 60s, I'm talking about 60s, 50s. So the size has become the same. It's so unfortunate, the younger generation has forgotten the art of printing. The photography has suffered most. I would rather touch this, because it has lost its existence, the physical existence. Photography used to be on bromide. We used to see photography on bromide. And when you are a good printer, I mean, in my career, I started my career before going to Paul Saab also. I started my career as a color printer. That's one of the reasons I didn't know how to load the film in the camera, because I was a color printer. I used to print in Cannot Place at Das Studio. So for good 11 months, a year, I worked on C prints. Once you are a good printer, or once you know the art of printing, it really affects your vision. You know what to shoot and how that one particular frame will look good on the bromide. Your mind immediately, translate your thought process, how a particular picture is going. You visualize the picture not through the viewfinder. We still visualize the picture on the bromide. I still, whenever even from Kashmir or India or any other project or the projects I'm doing, I come back from the shoot, I select my images, and then I go for printing. I just cannot see my images beyond a point over the screen. So that is one most important thing, please print. If you're really interested in photography, if you feel photography from heart, then print. Screen is not going to help you. I'm not saying shoot on film. A lot of economics is there. If you can afford it, nothing is like that, because it allows your mental faculty to think, to visualize the picture first here, and then you become very, miser also. You don't waste your frames. But even if you shoot digital, at least print. Now, printing, as far as the physical existence of photography is concerned, is so important that we print and then select how it works. Otherwise, it gets very, very difficult. At least for me, it gets very difficult. Coming back to your question again, sorry, I was going. I think it was important to talk about. I was just out of the context, but I'm not a great fan of posting pictures on Instagram and gaining likes and followers and followers. It's a hoax. It's a completely hoax. You know, it can be a wonderful business module if you can work out. Few photographers work it and they work it out very well. But as far as photography is concerned, please don't equate photography with Instagram likes or followers. And I'm not the only one who's saying. Any experienced photographer. I'm talking about photographer. I'm not talking about the business of photography here. Will never advise you. Instead of looking at photography all the time on Instagram or on social media, we are bombarded. Listen to music, read, explore the other faculties of art, which will definitely, enrich your mental faculty to shoot better.
Right.
You, as a photographer, or me as a photographer, will have to have very diversified interest in other genres of art, be it music, theater, cinema, cinematography, poetry, literature. It really, really helps. So, as far as I am concerned, I will definitely advise that, stop looking at social media. It really kills your hunger and mind too. Visual senses तो खत्म कर देता है.
Talking of which, if social media ceased to exist tomorrow, do you think
Sorry,
mobile
come back.
photography...
I was reading a comment. Sorry.
I'm saying, picking up from the note that you've just spoken about, if social media ceased to exist from tomorrow, do you think mobile photography would still be relevant? But do you think mobile photography has a relevance beyond social media?
Two questions you are asking. So I just answer the latter one. Of course, photography will have its own relevance, and I think a far better relevance if we remove.
I'm saying mobile photography. Mobile photography.
No, you're talking about, rephrase the question. You're talking about social media, or you're talking about mobile photography?
I'm saying if social media ceases to exist tomorrow, will mobile photography still be relevant?
Sorry. I used to write a column, do a column for Better Photography called Cell Phone Diaries. And I had a very interesting conversation with the feature editor, Raj Lalwani, who's a dear friend. There was a time when we used to write, or when people used to write diaries, and diaries used to be the most secretive thing. People used to hide them. They're like, they're dark secrets or whatever in their life which they didn't want to share. They used to share with the diary. Now the closed diary has become an open diary, which is a Facebook. Now, whatever you want to share, you have to share, even if you're sitting in Los Angeles and you have to share something with your cousins or friends in Jaipur or in Lucknow or in Delhi. So you will immediately connect with them. And you want to share. Now, people don't enjoy their vacation. They don't feel their vacations. They always filter one thing between seeing the landscape and their eyes. They filter their mobile within, in between. And to that extent, I would say, they have stopped feeling those moments because they want to capture everything. They want to shoot everything. And they just want to share. Oh, I was there. Your own existence didn't realize and didn't know that you were there. But you want to make sure that the entire world knows that you were there. So here is a difference. So people have stopped feeling. Everything has to be come out on the social media. Now, tomorrow, if the social media is vanished, you take my words, people will come back to their basic Nokia phone. There won't be any mobile photography because mobile photography only survives. It's barring few of us who use mobile camera as a serious camera, and now iPhone and some other brands also, but especially this iPhone. has come out with incredible cameras. But as far as social media is concerned and mobile photography is concerned, they are interrelated. They are directly dependent on each other. So tomorrow, if social media is gone, mobile photography, I think 90% of the mobile photography will go. Because people, where will they share? It's a package. It's not about photography, it's about sharing. And where to share? The platform is there. So the gap between these two, the bridge between these two, mobile photography and the social media, the bridge is sharing. It's all about sharing. So they want to share every moment, and to share every moment, they shoot or they capture every moment. So if the platform is not there, the sharing won't be there, and if the sharing is not there, then why the hell one will shoot? Except few of us. That is there. So I don't think it will survive. Yeah.
Okay. And do you think photography would be like photography over the years has been democratized as an art form? Do you think the reverse process would happen if social media is removed from the scene?
Of course. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Somebody is writing, mobile click picture is not photography to my senses. Well, that's another debatable. It depends who is shooting. If somebody is treating mobile phone camera as camera, and camera does not shoot. It's not about mobile photography, or it is the eye that shoots. So whether it's a mobile camera or it's a DSLR or any large format camera, it's irrelevant. But I know what he's saying anyway. But that doesn't mean that whatever has been shot through mobile, including my own book, is not photography. Of course, photography is there. Anyway.
I also want to talk about the other side of you, which is also, I don't know how many of the people watching this really know it, but you're very much involved in nurturing younger talents. There are all the schools of photography who hone upcoming photographers, but you single-handedly have a very one-on-one relationship with younger photographers, and you engage with them at many levels. Why is it important to you, and how do you really do that?
See, as far as engaging with young talents is concerned, one thing is very clear, I don't charge anything from anyone. And you know that. So
I'm
you're the witness
to that.
So the whole idea is to share, and not only photography. To my, I would say, students or mentees, or maybe whatever word you want to say, friends, I share, and I share on one-to-one level. It's like, speaking to your friends. I share the experiences of my life. I listen to their experiences. I listen to their stories. So it's not about I'm teaching them photography. I don't go by any syllabus. I don't go by any method. I don't have any methodology when I'm dealing with either with you or with A, Y, Z or anybody else, any of my students. It all depends on conversations. It's a very unique idea of teaching photography. If I use the word teaching, I don't even use that word teaching. But it's a very unique idea because my thought process is a lot can happen on conversations. When I converse with you, it's going to be a different experience vis-a-vis when I converse with, let's say, other day we were looking at Geetika's work. Okay, it's a altogether different experience, because I will only react to a situation what will come to me. Your body of work depends on your thought process. Your thought process is entirely different from Geetika's thought process. Geetika's thought process is entirely different from Rahul. Rahul's thought process is entirely different from Jatin or many other, you know. The point here is, which people don't realize, how much I learn when I share. You people are exploded with ideas, you know. We have been there for the last 30 years. At times, saturation comes within us, in me also. So how much I learn from you, nobody knows. That's me. But as far as engaging with one-to-one, it's not about photography. I engage with one-to-one about life. I mean, there have been, with guys who have worked with me. Anay Goswami used to work with me. Very briefly, he worked with me in 2000. In 2000 actually. In 2000. 2000 and 2001. Till date, you know, we are like soulmate. Because we developed a relationship beyond photography. Photography becomes only instrumental. As I said, there is no methodology. If I say in my school of photography, I'm just using this word, I don't have any school, but in my school of photography, there is no methodology. I don't go by, okay, first of all, though, I don't deal with the basic of photography. Even I don't know the basic of photography. I'll have to learn, go back, because we are so used to, we don't go back, we just shoot. But when I deal with all my students, it's about dealing their life. I'm not going to tell you should do this, or you should do that, or A should do this, or B should do that. Everybody's journey. Sorry.
I'm really sorry to interject here, but we're running out of time for the Insta Live. Would you like to continue this? Can I log back in and invite you? And would you like to continue this?
I don't mind. Yeah,
On Insta?
definitely. But
Yeah,
now we
yeah.
are off. And what will be the procedure? Please tell me.
I'll just end this, and if you can come again online, and if you can just be online, I'll send you an invite for this talk again. It's the same
the way
process.
you did. Yeah. Okay. So we'll start.
Right. Sorry about this, but we'll just continue this.
Oh, you'll have to listen to me again, the same thing, huh? I'll forget. So the answer will be
no, I'll take it forward from
Okay,
there.
chalo.
Don't worry. Thank you.
See you in a minute. Bye.
Yeah. So we're basically talking about how you have a one-on-one.
So in short, I will finish that.
conversation.
In short, I'll finish that. It's all about dealing with life. It's all about sharing life. It's all about sharing your experiences with your so-called friends or so-called students or friends or your mentees or whatever word we use. So there is nothing specific. There is no methodology, I was saying. I teach everyone as per their own experiences. I don't force my experiences on them. I only guide them. If anybody comes to me and asks me, these days a lot of people call me and ask me, what should we work on? I said, what do you want to work on? Now they're clueless. I said, first you should realize, first you should, do some soul searching, what you want to do. All my projects are close to my heart. Don't do a project which is like in thing, somebody has shot his grandmother, or somebody has shot his mother, or somebody has done this. He has done or she has done because that was very close to him. That was something going on in his or her life. So don't fall into that rat race, or don't fall into the bracket of copying people. Just do whatever I do in my life, the project what excites me, that not necessarily that will excite other one also, or to my student. So what I do, I allow them to fly free. I allow them to do their own soul searching. I push them. I guide them. See? So I guide them to do that. And in that process, in those conversations, photography happens. So there is nothing called, okay, we have chapter A, we have chapter B, we have chapter C, or we have chapter 12. And this is like a 12 chapter crash course, or a long course also, 1 year course. No, It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process, and we all learn from each other in that. Whatever is there, it comes through the student only. I only guide them. Now, that's a very tricky thing, and we can go on that. But let me tell you one more thing here. In the next few days, I'll be reviewing and editing photographers' work. So people who are interested, the young ones, people who are interested, details will be there online on my Facebook and on Insta handle also. So people who are interested, they can inbox me, and then we can take it from there. But in the next few days, when the COVID is there and we have nothing much and we all got stuck at home, so I'll be reviewing the portfolios. I'll be actually advising photographers on their folios, how to compile their folio, how to do sequencing, and how to do editing. Editing doesn't mean Photoshop, huh? Editing means how to do sequencing, how to make stories out of their work. So I will be doing that. So the interested guys can approach me.
That's good to know, because I'm sure a lot of photographers here would be interested in showing your work, their works to you. You also pointed out about editing projects. One thing that really interests me about the way, like, I really like.
Can I suggest one thing? Can you take some questions? Although a lot of questions are coming.
Sure. I can start taking the questions.
Yeah, please
also.
take, because people feel. I don't want anybody to be left out. Yeah, please.
Sure. There's a question. Do you think photography schools and degrees in photography are important or are needed?
Education in any school, any sort of schooling is important. It's very important from the point of view of getting your perspective right. The history of photography is equally important. One factor is the history of photography, to learn, to understand from where the photography is coming. It's equally important. The next thing is, of course, you will learn today's practitioner's practice. And then school like, I would say, ICP, it allows you to do a hell of a lot of networking also. So that's another aspect. In fact, many of the students go to ICP for networking only, because only a 1-year course, and it's and who's who of photography world come there to teach. It's like any good MBA school, or institute where you go there and the placement is also provided. So ICP works very well in that case. But besides that, I mean, this is one of the practical thing I'm telling you. But besides that, schooling is very important. But it all depends which school you are joining in. So do your research properly before joining school, because now there are again many schools. I would say up to schools in India, at every corner you will find one photography school. So a lot of hoax are also there, but a lot of good schools are also there. So do your homework before joining the school. But yes, schooling is important. Besides that, assisting a good photographer is equally important. So that is another way of learning photography. The way we all learned, because in our time there were no schools, or like the way I teach, which is very rare. So of course, but yes, schooling is important, I think. Yeah. Another question?
We have a question from Aratna Lal. How do you stay inspired? What kind of activities do you pursue to keep your skills sharp, like different art forms, music, history, food, travel, etc.?
She has answered the question.
But what's your personal choice?
See, I'll tell to Anuradha is there, yeah?
Aratna Lal.
She's Anuradha. So now the thing is, my personal choice is cinema. My personal choice is, I will die if you ask me to do only one project in 5 years. My personal choice is, and that is very risky, huh? I don't advise many people. I normally actually don't advise to anyone, but work on 3-4 projects simultaneously. I'm like once Better Photography said, Amit Mehra is like an octopus. He works on many projects, and within many genre of photography he moves seamlessly. But my strength is that I work on many projects that really allows me, that really gives me strength, that really allows my mental faculty to move on, that really inspires me. I will be dead, if you ask me to work only on one project. The only project till date I have worked on is Kashmir. I mean, in Kashmir, so like I left my commercial also. Nothing was there in Kashmir. But cinema is definitely music. Indian classical music is one of my all-time companion. Poetry, Urdu poetry, all these things, really push you, all makes you more sensitive towards seeing. And ultimately, what photography is the art of seeing. No? It really sensitizes your vision. So these are the things which really inspire me. Cinema inspires me a lot. Yeah.
What would be your favorite cinema that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I have very varied choice from Satyajit Ray to Zoya Akhtar. So,
But some examples, maybe if you can share. Maybe the recent ones, whatever comes to your mind.
Dum Laga Ke Aisha. What a film out of the box, what a film. These are the stories which inspire, now it's such an incredible film. Had it been 20 years back, this could have been a documentary or a parallel cinema kind of film. It's anything which was coming from a small town was a parallel cinema 20 years back. But hats off to these guys, they make, they pick up such a relevant issue. And actually, these are not even issues. People just ignore them. But they, hats off to the script writer who has woven the entire story about a relationship between an obese woman and her husband who never liked her. And at the end of it, he's carrying her on his shoulders to win a race, and how the relationship develops. It's a small town story. Story like Piku. Shujit Sarkar is incredible. I mean, story is based only on constipation. The entire northern India talks about this topic on their dining table. But nobody will ever think of making a movie. Hats off to Juhi Chaturvedi, who wrote the script of Piku, or what was the first film of even Pink, what he made. I mean, I'm talking about the mainstream cinema. Incredible. Iranian cinema inspires me a lot. A few days back, I just saw a film, Frozen Rose. It's a 14-minute film about a small girl child, who lost her father in the war, and she has always been waiting for him, sitting on a railway line. Just a 14-minute film, incredible film. Iranian cinema is, oh man, this is something else. I mean, they make cinema out of nothing. Literally, practically, they will shoot the film in 2 rooms. They don't need sets. They don't need a star cast. They just need actor, 1 camera, and 1 script. Period. Incredible. So these things really inspire me. A lot of jazz music inspire me. A lot of Qawwali inspire me. So my interest in music are very wide, because my upbringing, the place from where I come, from Old Delhi, Balli Maran. So उर्दू से तो वैसे ही हमारा खासा रिश्ता रहा है. So all these things really inspire.
I'll have to bring you back to photography with some of the questions that we have from the audience.
Photography happens
Piyush
with
Mehra is
life
asking,
only. This is all about photography.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Piyush Mehra is asking, how can we disconnect from an emotional subject and start afresh in another? I think what he probably is asking is, how do you disconnect from a subject you've been working with over a longer period of time and then moving on to another one?
There is no, formula here. There is nothing specific I can say. It all depends on your, again, mental grooming, how you take your life. It's all about life. As far as disconnecting emotionally, it's very difficult. Emotionally, though, it's very difficult. What I do in my case, I mentally disconnect. I'm not able to disconnect with Kashmir from my heart. But when I was doing my other projects or the forthcoming projects I'll be doing, and I've been shooting those, so I don't carry that baggage. I don't carry that baggage of my experiences in my mind. As I said in this conversation only, I touch every new project with absolutely fresh eyes, fresh mind. As far as emotions are concerned, we are all human beings, so we cannot disconnect completely, we are not robots. But yes, there are ways which I use. I take long breaks. I am never in hurry to finish a project. So take long breaks. Go on sabbaticals. The problem is now people are so much of hurry of getting next day likes on Instagram, so they have to post pictures. I ask many of my students, why is there is so much of why you force yourself to post all the time? He said, sir, follow what do you call following गिर जाता है, likes गिर जाता है, followers, there will be a drop down in the followers if you don't post. Okay, so my question to them is always, you do photography for the followers who are, who don't even know you, or you do photography for yourself? First of all, try to know yourself. No? Do it for yourself. Followers, name, fame, money, followers, all will follow you. First, do it for yourself. So don't be in hurry. Take breaks. That's what I do. From one project to another project, I take breaks, and my projects are very long projects. So I'm not in a hurry to finish a project. As I said, I don't even decide whether it's going to be a project or not, or it's going to be an exhibition, or it's going to be a book, or it's going to be nothing. Maybe nothing. After working 5 years, it might be nothing. I'd been working on a project on Old Delhi, where I visited after 20 years, and I'd been going every month. But photographically, I never shot that. But uh, when I decided to shoot Old Delhi 10 years back, and I worked for 4 years, 5 years, and then I realized I'm not heading anywhere, because whatever I used to feel there, whatever I used to see there, does not exist. Anything does not exist now. So the whole project more or less got shelved. Maybe, uh, at the moment it got shelved. So I'm not in a hurry to finish it. In fact, 60-70% of the project has been done. So any photographer who does his mathematics right, calculations right, would have published the book. But I'm not in a hurry. I enjoy my photography. So let it, it might happen, it might not happen. So take long breaks. Don't be in a hurry.
We have a question from Amar where he's asking, do you think approaching a photographer is becoming difficult in the current times? Has celebrity culture taken over and made it difficult for younger photographers to assist or approach established photographers?
No, I don't think so. And if you feel like, come over to me anytime. I'm always open. But there are many.
That's happening to
There are
you.
many photographers. There are many photographers who are celebrated photographers. But
but they take interns, they take assistants. But the point is, now initially I used to have at one point of time 6 assistants. There's an interesting question from Jesse. These questions distract. But anyway, it's an interesting question. Please take it up.
I will.
So what I was saying?
You were basically saying that there's a point of time when you had 6
there was a 6 interns,
assistants.
6 assistants. But now practically is not possible. How much a photographer can take. Clients don't allow you to take more than 1 or 2 assistants now. If it's an international assignment, it's 1 assistant. If it's a national within India, we take normally 2 assistants. So the rotation happens. But what happens is, so I have done another thing. I have decided, okay, this set is going to be my assistant, and this another set is going to be my students. So students are as many as they want to come in. No problem. I'm always there. But as far as assistants are concerned, when the previous one will go, the next one will come. And normally one assistant stays there for 2 hours. But I'm sure, there are many other photographers, definitely who take assistants. So I don't know, your experience might not be good. Maybe one of the experiences, but yes, definitely there are photographers who take.
Jesse's question is, can you share positive changes you've seen in photography evolution from film to digital in social media driven to social media driven? So
Sorry,
film to digital to
film to digital, I got it.
And from digital to social media. So what are the positive changes that you've seen?
See, positive changes as far as from film to digital media is concerned, it's a very obvious change. Digital allows everyone to take pictures. Now in that process, a lot of crass also happened, but a lot of good work also happened, which people could not have imagined in the world of film photography. Because I'll tell you, we photographers thrived on it was a snob club. It was a snob club of photographers because photography, because economics was involved, and people who could break that barrier of economics by hook or crook or by sheer dedication or by whatever, they became photographers and they became the part of the snob club. But the moment digital came, so everybody is empowered to do pictures. And when I say from digital camera to phone cameras, I give you a small example. 2 examples I give you. There was a driver, there was a Pakistani driver in New York who has done a phenomenal project or a series of pictures through his mobile phone, through his Samsung mobile phone. He's done a phenomenal, whether Samsung or iPhone, I don't know, that's irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. He has done these pictures wherever he used to stop at a red light at any of the traffic signal. He used to shoot live through his car at that one particular signal. And over a period of 2 years, he had a phenomenal body of work on almost all the traffic signals of New York City.
Wow.
And how a driver is looking at the New York City through his car while taking a rest on the red light. So there's a huge amount of things which people don't notice and they usually get unnoticed. He noticed, and over a period of time, he started seeing some different things. And at the end of it turned out to be such a phenomenal project, which was not possible in the days of film. So it really empowered. Like similar, there was another project happened in Iraq, where a lawyer has shot. It was a wonderful idea, and it was a conceptualized idea. It was a conceptualized photography idea, where he thought of that Saddam still lives in our minds. It's such a unique idea that we are still in love with Saddam and Saddam still lives in our minds. So what he did, he made masks of Saddam Hussein's face. He actually made posters of Saddam Hussein's face, and he had given to many professionals, from laborer to the architects to the builders to entrepreneurs to all segments of life, and everybody was holding that poster in the front of his face. So the actual face was not visible, the Saddam face was visible, and the entire body was visible. Suppose a doctor in his white coat holding that mask, Saddam is visible, and he shot the entire project on his phone camera. So
Right.
these things are not possible during the film days. So of course, having said that, a lot of crass also happened. People are shooting their food picture in Moti Mahal restaurant and sending it to his cousin in somewhere in Bangalore or in Ludhiana. That is not photography. So all those things have also started happening, but a lot of positive things have also happened. And I see on Instagram also, whenever I see, I don't go there every day. As principle, I avoid, but some very good work comes. But unfortunately, what happens, even in my case also, we just go from one to the next, to the next, to the next within 2-3 seconds. So I normally do, what I do, I take the screenshot of that picture. If I like in between our conversation break, I just went on the Instagram and I saw an incredible portrait by Nadav Kandar just now, a few seconds back. So what I do, I take a screenshot of that picture. And before I go to sleep, I study all the pictures. Then I give time. So for me, then those are not Instagram pictures. Those are my pictures. And I study them, I give them due respect and credit. So a lot of good things also happened.
I think also it's useful to talk about the way phone photography is becoming so helpful. Like there have been situations where photographers have lost their cameras in conflict and they've done entire commission projects out of a phone.
Sorry, come again. I was reading question.
There have been I'm saying that there have been times when photographers have damaged their cameras on assignment while they're shooting conflict, and they've shot entire projects on phone, and they've done some incredible work out of it. So I think in those ways, the phone has really made a lot of intimacy and a lot of intimacy between people to be accessible through the camera, because it's so unnoticeable also in so many ways.
Oh, it works phenomenally. It really works phenomenally. If somebody knows how to see, the only thing is somebody knows how to use the camera. Like I'll tell you, when this gentleman asked Mr. Oberoi just a question, I'll tell you my own example connected to this, your question only. I did a project called, I was on a residency program in Paris. Government of France invited me, and I was doing a project, Paris, a love affair. So I had been shooting, one of the lucky ones, stayed there in Paris and shot the entire Paris for a number of days. And that project turned out to be, the project is called Paris, a love affair. Now, I was so scared of shooting people, and I was shooting on the streets in Paris. And in Europe and in America, especially in Europe and in Paris, people are very, really, really finicky about their privacy. Now, what digital allowed me, digital allowed me to steal the images. I shot everything from my chest level, and I could there and then gauge and recheck what I got. And what helped me now, everything helps. What helped me there to shoot this? Now, digital was an incredible tool in my hand, but my experience as a printer working on the bromide allowed me to frame the picture. I was not looking through my eyes. At the end of the day, I was looking through my eyes. Sorry, I was not looking through my viewfinder. I was looking through my eyes, but I was not looking through my viewfinder. I was composing the picture, and I was just going on my digital. And at the end of the day, that exhibition, the whole body of work had been shown in Paris, in France, in 9 cities. In India, it has been shown in 8 cities. Still going on. There might be a book coming up now if we get sponsored. So how the previous experience of printing on bromide helped me to see the picture without even having the camera through my eyes, and how digital helped me. And now when you are talking about mobile phone, oh, it helps like hell. It really, I mean, you can be really an invisible photographer, and you can get the best of the pictures. I was just going through one of the questions here that it's a very funny question actually. That Raghu Rai sir is dead against mobile photography, this and that. I don't know when did he say. He must have said initially, because he himself was a brand ambassador for one of the phone, and he did the entire series of Oppo or some other phone,
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
fact, he was so fond of my Roznama, which was shot on iPhone. He said, "That's your calling," and he printed the whole series from the Roznama, from mobile phone photography. It's a path-breaking work in his own magazine, which he used to come out. So it's not that
The Creative Image
Creative
magazine.
Image magazine. So it's
Yeah.
not that, initially we all get, like, I was very anti of digital initially, but then I realized why the hell I am anti of this. Initially the cameras were not good, so the quality was not compatible. But when the cameras have started coming in, the quality was compatible. Even the quality has surpassed the film now. So I remember one of the Paul Saab's statement, once we were shooting Eid at Firozshah Kotla, and Paul Saab was shooting with digital, and he was going like, some bazooka. He was shooting, and then he said, if may I allow to say, he said, uh, उल्लू के पट्टे, अगर ये डिजिटल 20 साल पहले आता तो मैं कितनी इमेजेस क्रिएट कर देता. So it has its own advantage, so definitely. And mobile phone camera depends who is operating that, whether it's operating some auntie sitting in Moti Mahal. Even she can do some interesting pictures, there is nothing against that, but depends how seriously you're using your camera, whether it's a DSLR or mobile camera or a film camera. Irrespective of any camera, it depends on the eye that creates the image.
We have one question from Pragya where she's asking, is it important to always head out of homes with a story idea?
No, not really. But like in COVID, such phenomenal bodies of work are coming out. Just look around. It depends, what excites you. If the life around you in your home excites you, why not? Just look around. If it doesn't excite you, then move out. It all varies from person to person, but there is no hard and fast rule, okay, one has to go out. Like in my case, I have gone through the full process. Initially, I never used to find anything in my house. I used to be, as I said, I'm a restless soul, so I need to be out. I need to be out on different locations many times. But then, after 2012, when my daughter was born, and I was in my house for another 2 years, for the next 2 years, I saw such beautiful things in my home only. So it all depends what you are going through your life. Just be open to life. Just be open to life. Ideas are there. Every single individual has a capacity to do, if may I say, don't say photo project, but yeah, stories, visual stories. Every individual has. Even the migrants who have been on the road for the last, unfortunately, for the so many days, with all due respect to them, to people like us, to any housewife, to any student, everybody has a story to say. So just be open to life, be sensitive. You will have your call somewhere next to you only.
I want to take a couple of more questions. I won't make it too long for you, but there's a question from Sandeep Roy where he's asking, saying, thanks for sharing such important thoughts. How should a young photographer choose from the different types of suggestions that come from the senior generation?
Sorry, come again.
So
How?
he's basically saying, how does a young photographer process all the feedback and all
Yeah,
the suggestions that come in from senior photographers?
yeah. So there can be a point where a younger guy can get confused also, because Amit Mehra is saying A, somebody is saying B, or somebody is saying C.
Exactly.
So as I said in my last answer, first think. Just don't jump into photography. First think, what do you want to do with photography, and do all kinds of photography. Then just don't be specific. Okay, I want to do only fashion photography. You might have a valid reason to do anything. If you want to do architecture photography, you might have a valid reason to do architecture photography. And that valid reason is that that genre of photography speaks to you or not. And to do that, before deciding any A or B or C, a particular genre of photography, you must do photography. And when I say photography, as a wholesome photography, first try to take pictures. Then, once you learn the art of taking pictures, then the next moment will be making pictures. From take to make, it takes a couple of years. So please don't be in hurry. I have been saying this, don't be in hurry, take breaks. So from taking to making, it's a long process. But if you really want to pursue photography or any other art form, now photography has got Instagram, but painting does not have Instagram. So painter has to go through this entire process of picking up the color palette, canvas, his ideas, everything has to go through the same process. Of course, there is a digital art also, but I'm talking about the conventional art. So if you really want to do conventional photography in forms of not film photography, digital photography, then do photography first, and then decide what one particular genre you want to take, and then accordingly select your mentor. I have gone through many mentors, and I have taken something or the other from everyone. Not many mentors, I would say 2 or 3 mentors, but the extremes were like, one is S. Paul, one is Pradeep Das Gupta, one is entirely different, working only on the streets, the other one is only working in the studio. So I have taken a lot of good things. In fact, from Pradeep Dato, I would say I have taken much more than photography. I have taken life from him, the lessons of life from him. So incredible. So choose. I buy your point. It can be confusing for a young photographer, but then there is a process to it. You'll have to follow the process.
There's one question where you're being asked, are there times when you don't want to or don't feel like photographing?
Many times. For the last almost 5-6 months, I shot only 2 pictures. So that's what I'm saying.
And it's okay to have that phase,
Of
right?
course. If you don't have that phase, then boss, it's very rare to have a Henry Cartier-Bresson or S. Paul or Raguraya who have been continuously, I say for me, photography is food, but for Paul Saab, photography was like oxygen. So that is the difference. So for me, it's important to have breaks, because beyond a point, your heart and mind can't take. So let's have a break now. Refurbish, rejuvenate yourself. In fact, today I was listening to this guy, Swapnil, and he was saying, I reached to a point of saturation and then I took a break for a year. It's important. There are times when you just don't feel like shooting, unless you are in that habit of posting on Instagram every day. So ये जो social media का pressure है, इसको थोड़ा सा subside कर लो. Don't take it as a pressure. Just play with it.
There's a question from Amit Suri, and maybe we could make it the last question if you're tired and you have other things to do. But Amit Suri is asking, Mehra Saab, do you believe that artistic endeavors, including photography, needs to create an ecosystem for mixed media example, graphic design, photo poetry, photo stories, etc. Or photography must speak by itself without mixing with any other artistic form.
Both ways. In this world, if I say, of course, I would say, as a photographer, my individual art form or the individuality of my art form should be distinguished, should be highlighted, and should stand on its own. But living in this age, we should be open to all the other ideas of mixing with other art forms. Definitely, I am very open to that, as long as my art form does not suffer. If something can good come out of it, why not? Let's do it. One should do it, as long as your own art form should not suffer. Any art form. That way. There are many questions.
There are actually many questions. Depends on how many do you really want to take.
Let's carry on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks to COVID.
How to? There's a question.
It's
from
interesting
someone...
to interact. Yeah, that's what I have done throughout my life. Conversation. Nothing is like conversations, and that will the young minds. How much I learn. Yeah.
There's a question where you're being asked how to move on from a project, especially when it's a personal project.
Sorry,
so how
come
do you
again.
really decide
Come again.
how to move on from a project, especially when it's a personal project? So how do you really decide that this is the point of time for you to move on from this project and you're done with this? Or
okay.
You risk making it an endless process.
So I have an idea for that, and a very simple idea. 2-3 things. As I said, I print everything. On my personal projects, I print, and I ask all my students to print. And if they don't print, then they are out. So I'm very particular and strict about one thing: print. I strongly recommend. So what I do, when you print, then you are living with the physical existence of your work. The major disadvantage with the screen is the moment your screen is on, your mind works, you're live. The moment you shut down, your mind shut down from that genre and you move on to another sphere of life. But when the print is there, lying on your bed, lying on your sofa, lying in your room, lying on your studio floor, like in my case, I used to spread the work on my studio floor. When I am done, how do I edit my work? So I hang the work in my bathroom, or I paste the work on my small prints on my mirror, shaving mirror, and I keep seeing them. And every day, every week, I keep something new. So that means that print should be in. And there are many process to there are many stages of editing before making it to the final book or final project, final edit. Leave the book. And if that particular print does not speak to me beyond a point, then it's out. So that is one way. So please print. Other way, while shooting, if you start repeating yourself in a project, which is the basic meter, the moment you start repeating yourself, then it's a time to say quit. I don't even say quit there. I take a break. Because there might be a situation when you feel saturated. So you start repeating yourself. Or you get influenced by some external factor and you start repeating yourself. So at that point of time, take a break. Take a break of 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months. Restart your project. But again, if you repeat yourself, then it's final that now this is over. Your project is over. So these are the 2 ways I work on. Once on the shooting front, I take a break, and if I find that I am still repeating myself, then I'm out of the project. That's what I did in Kashmir, in Roznama. Roznama मैं actually नहीं करा था. Roznama could have gone on and on and on and on. But India project also, and the other projects which will be coming out, same thing. That's the reason they are still going on, because I still feel excited about those.
मेरा यहाँ पे एक सवाल है.
ये
I also want to
Mr.
understand.
हाँ बोलो. Sorry, you were saying. Sorry, you were saying something.
I basically wanted to understand कि आप एक certain process follow करते हैं to edit your own works, but you also edit the works of a lot of your students and a lot of other photographers also. तो जब आप किसी और का काम edit कर रहे होते हैं, what is it that you're looking out for in editing other people's works? You know, are you looking for how I don't know what is your thought process in building those narratives and weaving those images together, or in deciding if you really want to go ahead with editing someone's work?
Interesting. You know, when I edit somebody's work, then photography is the last thing I look at. Suppose if I mean, you might find it very strange, and
Yeah.
of course you know the process, but if I'm editing your work, or if I'm editing anybody's work, any of my friends' work, I do it professionally also, internationally also. I edit people's work for their book projects or for their exhibition projects. So I look at their photography at last. That is the least important thing I look at.
Okay.
If I have 10 meetings with you regarding that work, 8 of my meeting or 7 of my meetings will be about your life. Will be about what you do, how you think, how you live, how you react to a situation, what is the evolution process for you, what all you have gone through in your life in general, how you have come up to this point, and then why did you choose this project. Once I am done with first set of questions, in few days, I'm just giving you an example, it can go on. I mean, with one photographer, I was doing a work in Israeli photographer we went on for almost 4 months. So I never get tired of asking questions and answering them also. So first time sorted
Also,
with first
again,
set of
I have to
questions.
interject here.
No, listen
I
to
have
me.
to
Listen to me.
Okay,
Listen to me.
okay.
So, first I'm done with first set of questions, and I asked, why did you pick up this subject or project? And then there is going to be follow-up questions regarding that. And then I will pick up the work, and then actually I will see the work. Because I want to see why this whole exercise was there. I want to see the individuality. I want to see the individual, whether that individual is there or not in his work. I don't want to see, let's say, some other influential photographer in your work. You chose this project because this subject is in at the moment. Then I will trash the work. Whether even if you're paying me, I will trash the work. Okay, leave it. Don't waste the time. The point is, until unless the individuality is not coming out, your own individuality is not coming out in your work, then it's pointless. Whether it's in the visual form or whether it's in the narrative form, it has to come out. And that's why this whole exercise has been done, to reach to a point to understand you as an individual. And once I understand you as an individual, then I will pick up your work. And then, so my process is very lengthy, whether it's my own work or whether I'm doing work for someone else. And that's the reason I charge a lot. Sorry. One should. Why not?
Gaurav Datta is asking, how do you combine photography with other fields, like weaving them into a meaningful narrative? So do you
I think we have already
combine
answered
photography?
about those.
Uh,
Sorry, come again.
okay. So he's basically asking if you combine photography with other narratives. I think the other question was Amit Suri's, where he was asking
Yeah.
about combining it with different media. But I think
What do you mean by narrative?
I think what he basically means is in making it interdisciplinary, not in terms of the media, but in terms of where you're gathering the subject knowledge from, or the way you're building narratives.
It's important, it's very important, because it's not like, just pick up your camera and start shooting. You can make pictures out of that. But once you start, like in a case of photojournalist, it's not about shooting a particular event. It's not about shooting a particular riot case or covering COVID. It's all about, if a photojournalist hasn't done his or her own research, I'm just giving an example of photojournalism, then there are mere pictures. They can be powerful pictures, but once the photographer has done his research, and no seasoned photojournalist goes in the field without doing his complete research. They just don't jump. Those days are gone. Photography and the style of photography and dealing with photography has changed. So the narrative, and I'm not saying narrative means the narrative with text. No, that's another area. And I'm not against that also. Sometimes one has to put the text along with the narrative, visual narrative. But I'm talking about the photojournalism. Research has to be there. When I say research, your groundwork, your homework, it has to be there. And there are many ways to do it in respective fields or respective genre of photography. Do you think a fashion photographer goes on the set without doing any research? If somebody is shooting for Sabyasachi, and if the same photographer is doing something for Tarun Tahiliani, or if somebody is shooting for, let's say, Vogue, and the same photographer is shooting for Elle, the styles are different, editorials are different, completely different. So they will have a one-to-one conversation with their entire team, especially with the editor or the stylist. Everything has been planned and researched. That's it. I mean, in fashion, it's planned, or in the other areas, it's research, but the homework has to be done.
We have a question from Anay Goswami.
Yeah.
He's asking, how can we sensitize the, and in quotes, patience of a social media user for true photography?
Who is asking about the patience? The man who has got the incredible patience. I mean, in Bollywood, they said he's the man who paints. By the way, Anay Goswami is a cinematographer and is a very dear friend. And he's been famous for lighting up the sets very patiently. So look who is asking about the patience.
But I think what he is referring to there is actually the impatience of the social media user, and if you can sensitize that towards photography.
Yeah, but one has to see from where the impatience is coming. It's not about photography, or it's not about social media. It's about the lives, how we live, or how we have started living. People are so, I mean, they are so impatient. I was just reading somebody's comment. Sir, I want to assist you, and I've already DM'd my bio to you. The person is not even, what should I say now? He's being so impatient. At least listen to what I'm saying. Don't waste these moments. You've been so impatient that you have already sent me your resume or your bio data or whatever. You must have lost those moments while posting me these things. So you must have lost whatever I was saying. So the lifestyle has become such that we are in a race. And this, what COVID has done, people must use this opportunity to have patience now, at least in life, to calm down, to slow down, to see what all we were doing, which was so against to the basic nature of humanity or human life. We are always in rush. I mean, that's what one digital photography or social media has also done. The flip side of that, when everything is so easily available on one click, so you don't want to waste your energy on that. That's the reason the younger generation is doing multitasking. They are amazing. The kind of mind bandwidth they have in their mind, they are incredible. And that's what I want to learn, and that's what I learn from them. But again, I don't want to learn that impatient from them. Uh, so it's a very difficult. Honestly speaking, if you ask me, I don't have any specific answer to how to sensitize. One has to sensitize himself about social media. One has to sensitize himself about life, the kind of life he has been living. Anybody. There is no specific answer to this. But good to connect with him here after so long. Thank you.
We are running out of time for the second live session also, so I'll make this the last question. Could you talk about your future projects? What are the documentary projects you're working on? What should we expect and look forward to coming out from your end?
Well, there are many projects. I don't know. See, one project I've been working on the roots of Sufism, how the Sufism has come into India on this line. And again, it's a very, very personal project, and we are running short of time. So I cannot talk about the story behind it. But again, it's a very, very personal project. I have been, in short, I can say, I have been grown up or on the funds provided by or the aid provided by the Sufi saints. So मैं literally पला बड़ा ही दरगाह के सबके पे हूँ. So it's a time to pay back. I can never pay back, but yes, I don't think any other photographer who has worked so extensively on this subject. It's a 9-country project which has been going on for the last 10 years almost now. On and off. I've been shooting this. Then there's another wonderful project I'm doing since another area of my love is architecture. So I've been working on a project called on the. I won't disclose the title, but I'm just telling you the project is it's on the colonial architecture of Bengal. So all those beautiful mansions which are fading out or losing their entity. I've been working on those for the last 3 years. Then, of course, I've been shooting slowly documenting a film on my birthplace, which is Old Delhi. So I've been shooting that also. But I've been shooting as well as directing that film. So hopefully it should come out. Besides that, there's a lot happening. There was 2 shows which are supposed to happen. One, the show I've been. Besides my own shows, one was slated in Japan and others in Melbourne. Besides that, I've been curating 2 shows. I don't know whether it will happen or not now in October. One was in September, one was in October. So 2 show curation is another aspect which really gives me a, thrill. I'm very thrilled to curate things, whether it's the India Photo Festival in Hyderabad or Zishan's. That was a wonderful body of work. And besides photography, I use like with Zishan also. I had many conversations, and besides photography, I used the story was about the relationship between him and his Nana, his grandfather, and I use a lot of his notes by his grandfather along with the images. A lot of his personal notes, what he had written to Zishan in the exhibition. So I use them as visual notes. I use them as photographs, the handwritten notes of his Nana. So these are the few projects, curation projects are there, and then what else? I'm editing a book for a photographer internationally, and that keeps me. And then I have a lovely daughter to look after. So that's my lifetime project.
That's a lot on your plate, and we look forward to seeing everything. And we look forward.
I hope people didn't get bored.
Many more projects.
I spoke too much.
No, we've had people glued. We still have people who are watching the show, but we're running out of time now, so we'll have to call it off.
We got
Thank
somebody
you so
from
much
Iran.
for joining.
How lovely! What a beautiful country. I'm so sorry, guys, because there were so many, some few unwanted calls were coming, so I was very distracted because of those calls. On WhatsApp calls were coming on at my end. So they were very, very distracting. But anyway, hey, Bharat is there. Hi, Bharat. I can see now. So,
I also want to, sorry,
please, Anuradha is
I'm
also
just
there.
saying I also want to thank
I
everyone
would
who
say
joined in today.
to Mr. Jesse Oberoi, he had a lot of questions. If you can just call me at some point of time, I would be happy to answer all his questions.
Sure. Thank you so much for joining in today, sir. And it was so nice to be able to host you here to have this conversation with you. And thank you so much for everything that I've learned from you. And thank you for sharing that with everyone who's an audience today.
Everyone
Thank you.
is most welcome, and people are most welcome to send their folios also. Of course, the details will be there on the Insta and as well as on the Facebook. Lovely to have all of you, and good luck for all your future talks, sir. Take care. God bless.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you so much.